All right. So, welcome everyone to our second Living in the Land podcast. We are welcomed by obviously our host, Julie Eccleston, and I am Dan McCarthy. And we have the pleasure of speaking with super realtor to Northeast Ohio, Erin Thomas of Keller Williams. Erin, thank you for being here.
Of course, I'm excited to be on here, guys. Thank you.
We're super excited to have you on and pummel you some with hard-hitting questions here. So obviously, we'll get to a couple things, but you know, are you from Cleveland? Like, give us a little background of where you're from, what do you do, and we'll kind of get into it after that.
Sure. So I was born and raised in Cleveland, Ohio, basically all over Northeast Ohio. I'm grew up in the old Brooklyn area, and then right around time for middle school, I was supposed to go to Mooney, which at the time was not a very good school to go to. So I ended up going to Catholic school at St. Mary's until my mom was able to, my parents were able to move us out of old Brooklyn into Brunswick. So I did my last year of middle school and all of high school in Brunswick, and then went to OU, did all of those things, came back home, lived in Lakewood, lived in Ohio City, and then met my husband, and he's an East Sider. So, if you know anything about Cleveland, they always say the East will come west, but the West won't come East. And so the West went East.
I love it.
So he's from Menor, and we lived in Menor for a little. We bought our first house in Willowick, and now we live in Pepper Pike.
That really is all over. You said all over Northeast Ohio. It's pretty much all over.
I think having a good realtor, she should know the ins and outs of all the different neighborhoods. And I've lived east and west, and I'm actually on a west side team. I'm on the Easy Sales team, which is the #1 team in Ohio. And they're based out of Westlake, which is pretty far west. So from west to east to south, I know all the neighborhoods. I know the markets. I know as much as I can street by street. And so it's great.
Is it fair to ask which has been your favorite?
Ooh, I will say that, in this stage of life, being in Pepper Pike, having renovated the house that we live in, and the schools are just so different than anything I remember, that has been incredible. Like, the community has been really nice. So I think Pepper Pike is probably my favorite, but I do have a soft spot for the old Brooklyn neighborhood.
Yeah. You always love the roots wherever they start, right? For sure.
Exactly. It's fun now because so much transition has happened in that neighborhood. So it's fun to go back and see everything that's going on. And if anyone knows of a house on Cecilia for sale, let me know. I want to buy it. It's one of those things that I secretly want to own on the street you grew up on, But yeah, it's I love it there.
So what got you started in real estate? Like, you've been all over, but what made you say, like, okay, this is it. This is my career?
Well, I guess those are kind of two different questions. So I got started in real estate because my husband said we should invest in real estate. He grew up building houses with his uncle, who owns a large construction company over on the east side. And I was at a stage where I was at a company that I really liked being at, but it's a very strong business, but not the best. I don't know. There were some things about it, and like, he was going through transitions, and I just felt like it was going to be me next, and I just had a baby, and I was like, what's the right move? So I had found an ad on Facebook for a social media marketing for a local small boutique brokerage. And I was like, well, my husband and I had created a business together. I know you don't need a degree in Facebook, and that's exactly what I said in my interview. And I got the job working for this brokerage, doing their social media and like their events and stuff like that. And pretty instantly, that owner said, no, you need to be doing sales. And so he taught me how to wholesale, and that's how I started, and became their first buyer's agent, and got licensed, and that all happened within 1 year. Did 49 homes my first year.
Wow.
And yeah, it was a big year. And then ended up transferring over to the Easy Sales team and being part of the KW family. So that, like, honestly, right away, once I started selling, I was like, I love this. This is amazing. And once I realized that I really had a knack for investors, that's what really cemented it for me. Like, I should be doing this. But the reason I'm in real estate is really because my husband was like, well, probably time for you to get a new job, and why not try to learn how to invest?
That's awesome. So how long ago did you start?
This is year 5 for me.
Okay. I mean, because you've made quite a name for yourself in
Yeah.
the investor space, not just even
Thank
here in
you.
Cleveland, but like nationally.
Thank you.
What makes you say, like, what do you love most about working with investors? Because that's such a hot topic in real estate in general, but especially like here in Cleveland.
Well, for me, working with investors, I like that they know what they want. They're pretty black and white. If you come to me and you say, hey, just send me all your deals, I'll buy anything, I'm probably not going to work with you as well as I would somebody who's like, hey, I want a 4 unit in this area for this much money with a cap rate here, and then I'm going to find it. And I love that. So for me, I've understood and learned how to run the numbers and evaluate the properties at a higher level than I think most other people do. And that's what keeps the investors coming back. Also, I think it requires you to be very, very transparent. In a
Mm-hmm.
world where most realtors sell less than 2 homes a year, which is what is the number? Like 87% sell less than 2 homes a year. That's a scary figure for people who are trying to move to a new area.
Yeah.
So I tried to make it so that I could learn as much as I could about those areas, but also about my product type. And I would send investors a very individualized, I guess is the word. If they wanted a deal like this, I wasn't just mass emailing them every deal I came across. I was sending them exactly what they wanted. But the biggest piece, and what I'm circling back to, is it's about transparency. I'm
Mm-hmm.
walking these properties and I'm not worried about that commission check because I sell more than 2 homes a year. I don't care if the sale price is 50 or if it's 5 million. I do both. For me, it's walking through the property and being transparent. One of the compliments I get the most is I love your commentary in your walkthrough videos. There's a couple of things I do. I zoom out the camera so they can see the whole angle. I don't like to do it on Facebook Live because then you can't go back and rewatch it. So I like to send them a recording of it. But they hear me walk the property in live time. And I think that's so important because if you don't know the area and you don't know the agent, how do you trust? And you have to find ways to build that trust. And so for me, I open the door, you see every step. If the floor is uneven, I'm trying to show you the floor. I'm telling you, or this is squeaky, or hey, this is bad. And I'm showing you everything as if I'm buying it. And I'm an investor myself. So if I sell you a bad deal, I don't sell bad deals. So let's just back up. I don't do that because for me, it's would I buy it? Would I feel comfortable buying it? Now, my buy box and what we invest in is different than other people. So I get the conversation, why don't you just buy it? Why are we going to get, how are we going to get good deals if you're buying it? Well, we all buy different things. So that's not, an issue. But I think you need to have someone buying a house or buying an investment, someone who you could trust, who's transparent, and who does it at the high level. And so for me, doing that built those repeat customers and shared my name. And I think that's kind of how it came that last year, over 80% of my business was just repeat clients.
It's amazing. And that's why, because you're right, I think it is like upwards of 90% sell less than 2 houses a year, which is why when you're like, I sold 49, I was like, whoa, like that's massive. That's amazing. And
Yeah.
like, kudos to you.
Thank you. Yeah, and for me, like that number was great. And as I've grown, I haven't necessarily tried to increase that number. I know a lot of people do. I've tried to keep increasing the sale prices and the switch into commercial that has happened. And now I'm really good at multifamily. That's probably where the name was created. Is that I understand at a high level what to look for, how to break this profit and loss sheet down, and so as I've grown, I haven't necessarily sold more homes than that. Just really specialized and stuck to my focus, which is investors. And I personally don't sell to homeowners. My team does, so I can still assist homeowners in being connected with the right agent for them. But I'm just not the best person for you to buy your house with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to a couple things, 2 big things from what you said. I just wanted to ask, so obviously I'm not going to wholesale because I have a full-time job, and unless wholesaling just to me doesn't seem like you can't just do it as a side gig. But like, do you think,
Mm-hmm.
I get asked a lot, like, how would you start in real estate investing if you could do it over again? Do you think wholesaling is a good start for people? I mean, I do. Like if they can
Yes
do
and
it?
no. If I were going to give somebody advice to get started in real estate, the first thing would be to house hack. Go buy
Yeah.
a 2, 3, or 4 unit with an FHA loan, occupy one of the units, and rent out the others. Learn what it feels like to be an investor. Learn what it feels like to collect rent. Me personally, I buy one that the units were outdated or the rents were below market. So you're also learning how to add the value. That's where you should start. And then scale up, then do it again. If you had a 2
Okay.
unit, now go to a 4 unit. The other biggest piece for me is to get connected with the right people. I learned very quickly that, networking events were important to me and I wanted to be connected with the people who were succeeding at a high level. So now I'm part of the Legacy family, which is honestly a game changer. And I should actually be headed to New Orleans tomorrow for a Legacy event, but this is a room filled with people who are investing in resorts and hotels and doing these things at such a high level. And so by being connected with these people, they want to teach you. They want to help you. Everyone wants to succeed. It's opportunities for private money. And so get connected with the right people, put yourself in the right rooms, and then start with a property that you can add a little bit of value to, but you can own or occupy one of the units and learn how to be an investor first.
People in the area buy your stuff more, or people from outside our area tend to buy it? Because I feel like we've got a lot of people coming from outside of Cleveland buying investment properties more than people here. And I think that's where the wholesaling does come in, because we have so many wholesalers here, because you can still find a house that might be aged or need some deferred maintenance, and they don't really care who they're selling it to. Do you have more of a responsibility to sell it to people that are looking to invest here that are from here? Or is it one of those transactional mindsets where it really doesn't matter who you sell it to?
I think for me, the difference is how protective I'm being over the client during the process. If you're not from here, you call me and say, hey, I want to flip a property. Okay, do you have a contractor? Have you done this before? Do you have the team? And if you don't, you're probably not ready for it. And I won't sell you a flip if you don't have those things, because I'm just setting you up for failure. Come in, buy something that needs a little rehab or something you can increase the rents, like we said before. Don't come in and think you're just going to go balls to the walls, for a lack of better terminology, but you don't have the team to support you. So I have a flipper that I work with. I only need one. I'm going to be honest, because he closes in 2 weeks, closes same as cash with hard money. And if it's a good deal, he buys it. But for flipping, it's really hard for out-of-state investors to beat the locals, because they can do the work themselves. They're willing to pay the more money. So it's very, very difficult for out-of-state investors to get good flips. When it comes to the BRRRR side, I will say that most of my clients are probably from out of town. I forget how you phrase it. Do I have, a reasoning to want to sell more to locals? I would love to sell to more locals who want to invest locally. I would. But what you find is that the locals are like, well, I'm not going to pay that. Even though it's an amazing deal, it's an 11% return. I don't want to pay that.
Yeah.
Well, so they're looking, what they want is the deals they can find themselves, because they can get a better, return. And that's where the wholesaling comes in. The locals do better, not necessarily even wholesaling, but just doing their own lead gen and finding it. So they don't need me necessarily, unless I have an off-market deal that I can present them. And I do get a lot of off-market deals because I work with all the wholesalers, because there is one. But they, the locals just tend to find their own deals and don't necessarily want to, I don't know, they're a little bit more stringent, which is great,
No, I think that's a good point, though. Like, people, like, if you're trying to find an end buyer for somebody in the burbs, so to say, and they're from here, they're always thinking about Cleveland prices, whereas somebody from outside of Cleveland is like, holy shit, I can buy what? And I mean, that's where you get people from like New York, or even, Toronto, LA, coming in here, and they're like, I can't believe, the prices are just rock bottom, and maybe they're not rock bottom to somebody from here.
Yeah, and I guess if I had like 2 cents to put out there in regards to this, I would say, look at the deal for what it is. If the deal is a great cap rate, it's a great cap rate. Who cares that, if it's 60 a door and you bought this other one for 40, who cares? If someone is making more, the cap rate's higher, the numbers just make more sense. Who cares? And what you find is a lot of locals are like, well, I can get this one down the street for, okay, but every deal is different.
Yeah.
You know, I've got a 6-unit in Windham, Ohio right now, and it's listed at $550, which is an 11% return at purchase. It's phenomenal. 4-bed units. But then there's like the best comp sold at $480, and it was getting $450 a month in rent and didn't have any of the CapEx done that this does. They're not the same property. I don't care. They're even priced pretty similarly, but they're not the same. You can't compare them apple to apple. And I think I'm seeing that a lot, is that, you know, it's the price per door, the cap rate that they purchased before, it makes it harder for them to purchase now. Other thing I tell investors is stop worrying about what they paid for it. If I came in and I found a great deal, who cares that I got a great deal? Who cares if the numbers make sense, if the cap rate makes sense, if the price point makes sense for you and it's a good return? Who cares what they paid? Give them kudos for doing it.
That's like the Midwestern mentality, right? If you've ever seen those memes where it's like, oh, yes, I like your shirt. Yes, I got it on sale for this and this. Like that whole discount mentality that you don't necessarily get on the coast, right? Because they're just used to things being like so expensive, real estate or otherwise. That's funny.
Exactly. Those are the two things I see all the time. And I'm like, just don't worry about it, guys. Like, does the deal make sense for you right now? And if it does, let's do it.
Yeah. Do you see people having trouble with financing on investment I mean, obviously you have a big buyer. I'm sure they have pockets that are, you know, blank checks sometimes. But I mean, they might not care about a 6-unit in Windham. So, you know what, I know that deal. I've seen it online. But do you think the person buying that might just not have the money to purchase it, or is it they don't know where to go get financing? They don't have the 20% down for the commercial loan.
So financing's interesting right now. It obviously keeps changing, and I think this is a topic that no matter who you talk to, it'll be different. I like to say, and I recommend to my investors to be with many different lenders. You know, you should have your fingers in a bunch of different places, and when you get a deal, you should talk to each of those people, because once you get approved by one, the other ones want your business. So you can sometimes just get a better interest rate by doing that. Become knowledgeable about the different loan types. You know, maybe it doesn't work for DSCR, but it'll work conventional. Maybe it won't work conventional, but you can go into bridge debt with this private money. Maybe you have a private money person who can fund it this way, and then you can refinance into the conventional. So being familiar with the different loan types, I think will help you. And then also creating the relationships with multiple lenders is going to help you. It's not necessarily that people aren't getting funding or ain't able to get approved for funding. I think it's actually probably easier than most people think. I think people are more afraid to make that first purchase, than it is the lending itself.
Yeah,
you know,
it's not a single family home.
Exactly. Everyone wants to talk about interest rates. Who cares? When I bought this house and I planned to refinance it, it was when interest rates were below 2%. And I'm like, yes, I'm going to live in this huge house for 2%. And you know what? It's 9.5% is my interest rate right now because of the time frame it took. And then we did a different type of loan or whatever.
Yeah.
But I know I can refinance out of it, so I'm not worried about it. So don't let it stop you. Most of the time, and you guys know this, the interest rates, versus the purchase price, and what's going to happen when those rates drop and all the people flood back to the market, they're all going to come back to the market, and then the purchase prices are going to go up, and now you just saved, a 1/4 percentage point so that you could pay $50,000 more for the house?
Yeah.
What was the point of that?
Yeah. Like around here, I mean, the property taxes are going to hit the payment way more than the interest rate are going to anyway, so.
Buy the house you like, do it when there's not a lot of competition, and refinance it when it makes sense for you.
Yeah. Well, you heard it here from Realtor, not just us, so.
Erin, one of the things I think you're really, really known for is like the creation of community. And obviously you have like a very giving like spirit and aura and things along those lines. But one of the things that you were sharing with Dan and I is that you really built a lot of it off of Facebook groups and being able to like kind of join community. Can you talk a little bit about like, hey, this is how I got started, this is why I did it, and do you still do it? Is that a place where some of our listeners can kind of come and say, I want to connect with her. She obviously knows her stuff. I want to learn from her.
Yeah, 100%. Facebook is where it all is for me. So what I did is I would go into all the Facebook groups and I would join all the Facebook groups. So at that time, it was a lot of investor pages. So, CLE investors and CLE multifamily. And then, I mean, honestly, like once a week or so, it's not on a schedule, but as I saw, I would add different groups. And what I do is I would, of course, post my deals in those groups. And if I had like a video, I would share it into those groups. But that's not what's important. What was important about was going into those groups and answering the questions, especially the local ones. Going in there and when someone's like, hey, do you have a plumber? Hell yeah, I do. Hey, do you have this? You should contact this person. Here's a question. Well, you should contact this person. So not only am I connecting and building a relationship with my vendors or my real estate attorneys or that and giving them referrals, I'm building a community on here so that they know, A, you can come to me with anything you need regarding real estate, but then just answering the questions. What's a cap rate? How do I calculate it? What do you expect the interest rates to be? Whatever that looks like. I would just go in those different groups, answer those questions, and I 100% still do it today.
Do you have your own group where you just kind of like offer that insight that people can join you, or do you just still go into all of these groups that are, because there's so many of them, already created and just provide your value that way?
Julia, I love this question because yes, I do have my own group. I just haven't invited anyone to it yet. So I just have this blank group on Facebook that's doing nothing. So right now it's me going to everybody else. This year I do want to change that, and I was going to create my own so that people can come and ask their questions and get their questions answered and build that community a little bit further. I just want to make sure that it's adding different value because, there's other groups and they're great. So what's different about mine? What makes it better? Otherwise, why don't we just stay where we are? You know what I mean? Why am I bringing everyone to somebody else? And so I want to make sure I'm adding the value. What I will say is one of the things that is really important to me this year that I wanted to do is coaching. I love to teach. I love to learn, and you learn by teaching. And so coaching this year is something I really, really want to do more of. And that's going to go back into Facebook as well. So I am launching my teaching agents how to work with investors. It's called the Investor Blueprint. It's a CE course that I've taught before. And so I'm relaunching that in April. Awesome. And then in addition to that, I want to start working with other agents and other investors and create like a community for them. So it'll be a Facebook group, a private group, a small monthly fee, and then 1 hour a week, I'll be on there live to do deal analyzing with you, run through your questions, anything I can answer. You can submit your deals ahead of time so we can actually like have ARV and comps and really do this at a high level. And then everybody in the group can learn from that. So if you've got questions or a referral, like it's all there for you. And I can start to give back at a higher level and really build that coaching platform that way.
I think that's amazing because there are so many folks out there who are like, I want to do this. I'm scared to do this. Do I have the right person that's navigating me through that? And I think that will be like hugely, hugely successful. Yeah. So if we can support you in that in any way, shape, or form, you let us know. We'll be happy to. Because obviously we think you're awesome. And two, we think that's so needed out there within the world.
It is. I don't think enough, we're not taught how to work with investors as agents. You're not taught any of this. So it's what brokerage you joined and who you worked with. And so I really was self-taught, but I love finding experts in their field and bringing them in. Just today, Trenton Bright is phenomenal. He is, I think, out of Florida, but he has the most inspirational story about how he got into selling hotels. Literally, it was just because he was determined and he had an investor who wanted to work with him and believed in him, and he just literally hit the boots and found an owner of a hotel, and now he's selling hundreds of millions in hotels. And so I have a buyer who's interested in a hotel, and I've analyzed hotels, and I've done this. but they're really, really want to step up the pace. And this one has a full renovation that's happening. So I'm like, So what I do is I just go to these people who are experts. I'm like, let me learn from you. Like, I'll give you 50%. Just teach me your ways, help me guide so that I can do this at a higher level. And what that did was allow me to grow really fast. But now I hope to do that for other people. So like the agents working with investors, like I hope more realtors learn how to work with investors. I call it the sprinkle. I think it's how you create a steady paycheck in a non-steady paycheck world. But then and that's part of my mini team. I have a mini team within the Izzy sales team, and we're all, I'm not going to say investor focused, but definitely investors are at the top of our,
Funnel.
our what we want to do. I guess one of the agents loves historic homes. And so I expanded her and said, what about historic buildings? Why is it just homes? So now she has the exclusive listing for the Brown Hoist, which is a completely renovated historic building in downtown Cleveland, like a creative space. It's phenomenal. And what I've been able to do working with her and working with another one of my mentees, and it's just really inspired me. So I love to help agents who really want to work with investors at a high level, bring them onto my team and really, really grow. So this year I started pulling in like the product division leaders from KW Commercial to come speak to us once a month. Like, tell us what makes industrial different. What do we need to know? What are the differences? What are the financing that we need to know? So that we can have these little nuggets and be more well prepared when we're working with investors, because investors start with a duplex, but they don't end at a duplex.
And I think that really is what sets a great agent apart from, someone who's just, hey, I'm going to do it if and when it comes, is that you really take pride in your craft and you really are that ultimate go-to in helping that transaction kind of get to close.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we haven't asked you that you're like, I'm dying to talk about this, or I think this is so important within the city of Cleveland or within just kind of living in this area in general?
I mean, no, I think if you're thinking of investing in Cleveland or you're thinking of buying in Cleveland or selling, of course, but I am a huge proponent of interview your agents. Would I love to get your business? Of course, but I think that you need to talk to 3 other people because there's a personality type thing, but what are your goals? What are your outcomes? What do you want from this? And making sure that you find the agent who matches all those. Like, do you want to pay junk fees or not? Do you want somebody who can be on demand for you all the time or not? Are you okay with someone using a showing agent model? Because I can't always be there for the showings. I will 100% be there for the negotiation and all of that, which is what you need me for. But I don't necessarily need to be the one to open the door, but not everyone's comfortable with that. So I think interviewing your agent, that's a big, big thing for me, is just to talk to them and make sure that you are connected with the right person so you don't end up in a bad situation. But I love Cleveland. I'm a huge proponent of Cleveland. I think it's great to invest in. I think it's great to live in. My husband really wants to leave to somewhere warmer, but I don't see myself leaving for long to go do that. But yeah, I think it's a great place to be. I think there's so many secrets here, little towns and neighborhoods that people don't know about that you can explore and go skiing or go to the beach or go to a water park, or there's just so much to do here.
Well, Erin, we appreciate you spending time with us. One last question. If anyone listening would like to get in touch with you, what is the best way for them to find you in a non-stalkerish way?
I am 100% best with text, but you can also reach me on Instagram at Erin Thomas Sells, and that's ERIN Thomas Sells. But I'm not afraid to do it. My phone number is 440-670-2300. Please shoot me a text. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram and shoot me a DM there as well. And I am happy to answer your questions or help you in any way I can.
That's awesome. Well, Erin, thank you so much. We really appreciate you giving us your little nuggets of wisdom and all of your secret sauce. And our Cleveland community is definitely better with you in it. So we appreciate you.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank you
guys.
so much.
Yeah, thank you.